औज़ु बिल्लाहि मिनश्शैतानिर्रजीम बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। प्यारे बच्चों, 2 दिन पहले हमने आपका एक और टॉपिक टच किया है, द प्राइस ऑफ फ्लावर्स, टॉपिक नंबर 13। इसके जो राइटर है वो प्रभात कुमार मुखिया, एक बंगाली राइटर है। तो आज हम उसी टॉपिक को कंटिन्यू करने जा रहे हैं। जैसा कि मैंने आपको पहले ही बताया कि ये स्टोरी जो है, दिस स्टोरी इज फुल ऑफ पैथोस, ए डीपली मूविंग स्टोरी, ए स्टोरी ऑफ ए poor English family consists of a widowed mother and her 2 children, a daughter and a son. Now, moving forward, when the worried mother and the little girl, the sister of Frank, showed Mr. Gupta a ring, they insisted him to verify with the help of that particular ring, whether their son is what their son is doing, how is his health. They wanted to inquire about the condition of her son and the little girl's brother. But when Mr. Gupta tried very hard to observe, to see to gaze in that crystal ring, he found nothing in that particular ring. तो जब मिस्टर गुप्ता ने उनको बताया कि इस रिंग में ऐसा है ही नहीं कुछ, मुझे तो कुछ दिखाई नहीं दिया, बोथ द डॉटर एंड द मदर फेल्ट वेरी डिसअपॉइंटेड। उनको बहुत ज्यादा नाउम्मीदी हुई, उनको बहुत ज्यादा बुरा लगा। अब मिस्टर गुप्ता ने ये रियलाइज किया कि ये माँ और बेटी जो है बहुत डिसअपॉइंट हो गए हैं। अब वो वहां पर टॉपिक चेंज करने जा रहा है। तो उसने मैगी से कहा कि यहाँ पर एक वायलिन है, ए म्यूजिकल इंस्ट्रूमेंट, टू प्ले इट फॉर मी। पहले मैगी जो है वह रिफ्यूज करती है, फिर आफ्टर परसुएशन ऑफ द राइटर ऑफ द नरेटर शी एग्रीड. For about 3 months, there was no news from Frank. One day, Mr. Gupta went to India House to inquire. He made inquiries. He tried to know about the Frank. But he learned that Frank's regiment was fighting on the northwest frontier. The mother felt fear-stricken on hearing this. माँ को बहुत डर लगा, उसको परेशानी हुई कि मेरा बेट वहाँ नॉर्थ वेस्ट फ्रंटियर पर अपनी ड्यूटी परफॉर्म कर रहा है. One day, Mr. Gupta received a letter from Maggie informing him of her mother's illness. She also gave the information that she herself had not gone to work for a week. तो उसने मिस्टर गुप्ता से रिक्वेस्ट की कि आप यहाँ आ जाइए हमारे घर और मेरी माँ से मिले, उसके ताकि थोड़ा सा उनको ये रिलीफ मिल सके कि उनसे कोई मिलने के लिए आया है. He told the family with whom he stayed about Maggie's letter. वो एक घर में एज ए पेइंग गेस्ट रह रहा था, तो उसने उनको बताया कि ऐसे मैगी की लेटर आई है, मुझे उनके घर जाना है. The hostess of that house where he was staying as a paying guest asked Mr. Gupta, the narrator, to take some money and visit the little girl's house so that he can help them some way. After breakfast, he left for Lambeth. The little girl was very happy to see Mr. Gupta. Because her mother's condition was rather bad, as she was very much worried about her lonely son Frank. Mrs. Clifford, now being so worried, she told Maggie that if Mr. Gupta came and gazed into that crystal ring, उसने मैगी से कहा कि अगर मिस्टर गुप्ता यहाँ पर आ सकेंगे तो वो इस रिंग में देखेंगे कि फ्रैंक ठीक है, वो कर क्या रहा है. And he might learn about Frank. That's why she had written a letter to him. Maggie then requested Mr. Gupta to look into the crystal set in the ring. Mr. Gupta told a lie that he looked into the crystal ring and that Frank was all because Maggie insisted him. It is Maggie's wish that he should tell a lie so that the condition of her mother will improve, that he was alive. Tears welled up in the eyes of Maggie as Mr. Gupta told a lie only to console her ailing mother. He then went to Mrs. Clifford's bedside and told her that her son was alive. She asked Mr. Gupta if he had seen her son alive in the crystal. He lied that he really had seen him alive. तो ये खबर सुन के वो माँ जो थी बहुत ज्यादा वरीड थी, वो बीमार थी, वो ठीक हो गई. And she blessed Mr. Gupta, the narrator. The sick woman, recovered. Obviously, an Indian's lie succeeded where Indian magic had failed. Remember this thing, beta. Indian man's lie succeeded where India's magic had failed. It was time for now it was time for Mr. Gupta, the narrator, to return to India. A month before his departure for India, Maggie sent him a card with a black border indicated some tragic happening. He could make out that the boy Frank had died someday. He could make out that the boy Frank had died someday, same day when he told his mother that he was alive and well. The narrator felt ashamed as he did not have the courage to face the Mrs. Clifford. So, he dropped the idea of visiting Maggie and her mother to say goodbye to them because they were most hospitable towards him. Instead, he wrote a letter to them telling them to his intention to go back to India. The morning of Mr. Gupta's last day in London came. He was having his breakfast. He heard a knock at the door. The maid of that house announced that Miss Maggie, or we can say Miss Clifford, had come to see him. The little girl had come to see Mr. Gupta, the narrator. He came out and saw Maggie in the hall, dressed in the black. She asked Mr. Gupta, the narrator, if he was leaving that day. He said that he was, and he would be in India in a little more than 2 weeks. She told him, the little girl, the affectionate sister, the worried daughter, told Mr. Gupta that her brother was buried at the Fort Manio near Dera Ghazi Khan. Mr. Gupta promised that he would go there someday and write to her about it. After hearing this, the little girl's face was filled with gratitude. She then took a shilling out of her pocket and put it down on the table, and requested the narrator, Mr. Gupta, to buy some flowers with that shilling and lay them on her brother's grave on her behalf. Mr. Gupta was overwhelmed. He felt like returning that shilling. Then suddenly he decided that this would deprive the girl of the joy that her sacrifice would give her. He realized that she was sacrificing not only the shilling, she was sacrificing her joy, her most precious thing, for the love of her brother. Thanks. Have a nice day.